welcome to the 515 Behind the Lens series, where we talk to the creatives, not only in front of the camera, but behind the camera as well, John.
Yeah, man.
And I'm super excited about today's show and today's guest, man.
Man, today's guest is somebody who's really forged in steel, brother.
That's right, that's right. So today on Behind the Lens, we're joined by one of the comedy's sharpest voices. From his early days on the airwaves of Birmingham radio to his breakout years as a stand-up comic and correspondent on The Daily Show, Roy Wood Jr. has carved out a career built on wit, insight, and authenticity. He's brought laughter to millions while shining a light on culture, politics, and the human experience. Now he's stepping into a new chapter with his latest project, the film Love Brooklyn, where he stars alongside fellow Alabamian André Holland. We're excited to have with us and welcome to the show, Roy Wood Jr. Roy, what's going on, man? Welcome to the show.
What up, though?
Man.
Man,
What's
glad
going
to have
on
you
with
on the
y'all,
show,
man?
man.
How you feeling? Man, I appreciate the invitation, man. Absolutely.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir, man. So, man, like I said, we're gonna go ahead and jump into it, man. So, growing up in Birmingham, what was it that first drew you into comedy, man?
I mean, Birmingham is a cracking ass city, especially.
That's right.
Yeah.
I'm just speaking for West End.
Yeah.
I came up. I used to ride the school bus, man. Over to Center Street Middle from West End, and then for a minute I got bussed out to WJ Christian for a year, and then the real gauntlet was high school, bro. Because like in Birmingham West Side in these days, to get to Ramsey was a 2-hour bus ride, bro.
Yeah.
Like you wasn't just my pickup was 6:30 for an 8:30 school day.
Wow.
So you already know, like you just sitting there, you playing spades all morning, you cracking jokes, you talking shit. And so I think that's kind of where my sense of humor started really getting filed down and like really exposed. And then started seeing the greats like Sinbad do their thing on TV on HBO and George Carlin and, Whoopi Goldberg when they would have like the little HBO free preview weekends and all that shit.
Yeah.
And like for me, that was a real big part of how it started. But I've always told people, part of what got me like to believe that I could do it myself was seeing Ricky Smiley on TV. And so when Rick made it, this is 95, 96-ish,
Yeah.
somewhere in there. When he was on BET's Comic View, man, and I was walking around FAMU, you couldn't tell me nothing, bro. You couldn't tell me nothing, man. Like he from where I'm from and he on TV. Oh yeah, I can do it now. It still took me another 2 years to really make the jump, and really get the guts to try it. But, it's different when you see somebody from where you from.
That's right.
Doing something bigger than what you could have ever dreamed for yourself.
Right. So, you started your career in radio in Birmingham on the Bookwild Morning Show. How did that experience shape your style and approach to comedy?
Man, black radio is different. Let me just say that. Also, y'all got to remember 95.7 in Birmingham, and this is for the people listening who not Birmingham residents. Black radio in the 90s was chaos, and it had to be chaos because you had to have ratings.
Right.
And in Birmingham specifically, Birmingham was, I think, nationally, I think there was only 6 or 7 cities that had 4 black urban morning shows airing at the same time. You had Tom Joyner,
Yep.
you had Steve Harvey, and you had usually Tony Scott was like one of the people. Some markets had Russ Parr,
Yeah.
some markets had Doug Banks, but those were the big 3, right?
Right.
And then you would have a local show somewhere on top of all of that. Like Chicago has always had a local show with WGCI,
Yep.
but they also had Doug Banks. They also had Russ Parr. They also had Tom Joy. So when you're competing for that many, when it's that many people competing for black ears, you gotta come hard. You gotta be funny. And, I followed Ricky Smiley, man. When Rick left to go to Dallas to start what would eventually be his syndicated show that we know him for today, Birmingham, man, folks talk about New York and you could make it here, you could make it. Nah, man, Birmingham.
Yeah. Okay.
I love my city, but this is the most we will tell you to your face you ain't funny. And it's in love. It's in love, but we gonna tell you that wasn't funny, sweetheart.
Yeah.
I don't know what you thought you was trying to do when you did that, but that wasn't what you was should that ain't maybe that ain't your calling. So, Birmingham was just a very competitive market, man.
Yeah.
It always has been. So that brings out the best in you. And so I had to be good at the prank phone calls because I was going to get run off the air if I wasn't.
Yeah.
I had to be good at them because Ricky was Hall of Fame.
Yeah.
So when you're coming in behind someone, the bar is set really, really high. And so you have to work to change that. The one thing that I'll give 95.7 credit for to this day is that for as long as I did the prank phone calls well, they let me creatively explore anything else I wanted to do.
Yeah.
So if I wanted to do weird commercials or weird characters, like we had parody songs and stuff like that, and Rick had a couple. Me and my partner Trey Williamson, shout out to Trey Williamson, another underground Birmingham legend in my opinion. Trey and I had a whole album of parody songs that Jams let us produce at their studio. Like, this is unheard of behavior. And this is unheard of creative freedom as well. So a lot of the characters that I did on The Daily Show, a lot of the stuff that I did on The Daily Show, if you really, really go back and look at it, it's the same type of fake commercials and shit I was doing on 95.7.
Yeah.
Wow.
And I wouldn't have even had the confidence to do that shit in the mainstream if I didn't already have it, basically galvanized, baptized in fire by the city of Birmingham. Because,
Right.
I mean, that first year on the air at Jams was rough, bro. Like, it wasn't no gimmies.
Yeah.
If it was funny, they said cool. If it wasn't, they called up and said no. And so that level of honesty was always like, that always sits in the back of my head at all times. So I think it was a beautiful thing.
Yeah, man. You mentioned doing the parodies and doing the prank phone calls. Right before you came on, I was talking to Bruce and I was saying Leo Devlin.
Yeah.
I can listen to anything
From the
Leo-
Sackleson Corporation.
That's right.
That's right.
I can listen to Leo Devlin all day, every day.
Yes, sir.
Leo Devlin had me rolling.
You know what's crazy, man? All them prank call characters based on real people. Leo Devlin was I changed the name, but Leo Devlin was a dorm advisor I had in college. So at FAM, we had this dude named Mr. Johnson, and if he's still alive, I love you, Mr. Johnson. I ain't talking shit, but you know what I'm about to say is the truth. Mr. Johnson was like, he basically walked around the dorm like he was like the colonel of an army unit. And so we used to have dorm inspections because, boys be nasty.
Oh, yeah.
We just junky. You won't take out the trash for 2 weeks and then the whole dorm got roaches. So you got to have room inspections periodically to make sure cats cleaning up, make sure they vacuuming. Mr. Johnson, the type of dude that will break all the vacuum cleaners or won't fit. Let me take that back. Won't fix them. And then knowing the night before room inspection, everybody needs the vacuum cleaner and ain't but one good vacuum cleaner. So instead of delaying room inspection by a day so we can all have a term of the vacuum, everybody getting fined $5.
Wow.
And so then he the type of person that'll just come up to you, it's a shame that you ain't got no vacuum cleaner. Bitch, you in charge of fixing them. What kind of scam are you running? So Leo Devlin is essentially this guy. He's a scammer, but he ain't, but he kind of is. He's shady, but he's fair. It's always this unrealistic thing that he needs from you. And so, like, I remember one of my favorite pranks. Folks can pull it up on YouTube. It's called Basketball Recruit. I called a lady one time. Her son was a basketball recruit. He was a 5-star recruit. He committed to Ohio State. I called her from a smaller school saying I wanted a reimbursement for the money I spent trying to recruit his ass. That's the type of shit Leo Devlin would ask for. Leo Devlin is going to ask you for a reimbursement for, like, and you can't. That's the whole dice. That's the chance you take when you recruit. Imagine Nick Saban calling your daddy going, yeah, I need that flight reimbursed since your boy didn't sign with Bama. The fuck are you talking about?
Yeah.
So that's where that character was rooted, man. I try to put all my comedy, man, regardless of like the form that it's in, I try to attach it to somebody real.
Based on reality.
That's what's up. Now, man, we're talking about radio and things like that, but a lot of people know you from the Daily Show. So from your time on the Daily Show to doing stand-up and doing radio, what is the biggest lesson in navigating all those different mediums?
I think it's about figuring out what's funny to you and what's important to you and talking about that. I don't think you'll ever be honest if you always trying to do what the streets want to hear.
Yeah.
And what you think there's an audience for. Do what's important to you and you will find the audience.
That's good.
I mean, I hate it. It's that simple, but Daily Show, yeah, we did all this political stuff, but there was also days where I would just go to Chicago and talk to people about gun violence. I would go and cover the 20th anniversary of the Million Man March. I would be off in the forest in Georgia talking to some cops, talking to people protesting the cops. So it was also about taking time to find the things that were important to me and then figuring out how to make that stuff funny.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Now, that actually leads me into my next question. So in comedy, it's often about telling the truth. Do you see yourself more as a comedian, an observer, or a storyteller first?
I'm an observer.
Yeah.
I'm an observer. But my degree also in journalism, and that's what journalism is. It's just observing and reporting what you saw. And then asking people questions to get a more in-depth analysis of their feelings, maybe. But no, I'm 1,000% an observer. I try to tell stories, but, I'm never going to be Dick Gregory or Ali Sadiq with it. I ain't going to never be Whoopi Goldberg. Like, I know my wheelhouse. And, I can tell jokes and I'm comedic, but I also know, like, when I look at certain comedians that have a degree of fun about them and flair about them, like a Mike Epps, right? Like a Mike Epps or like even like a DC Young Fly or a Carlos Miller, they have a different comedic muscle that I know I don't possess. So I'm not even going to try and do that. But I know I can look at the news. I can look at what's happening around us as a people, and I can put that into a bow and tell you what I think that means going forward for us and figure out how to make that funny. That I know I can do for sure.
Right. Now, your father, Rowood Sr., was a radio pioneer and journalist himself. What are some of the lessons that you learned from him? And he was great with storytelling, but like, what are some of the lessons that you learned from him about who you are that you still carry with you today?
My father cared about Black people, man. Everything he did was in service of Black people, in service of Black Americans, from starting and co-founding the first nationally syndicated Black news radio network, from his time, covering innumerable Black struggles and conflicts globally. He always did what he could to pour back into the community. What's wild, considering me working at the Daily Show, my pops never really rocked with politicians. I don't even think my dad voted, if I really being 100 about it. He knew politicians and he understood the game of it all, but I don't think he ever really fully bought into politics, considering the world that I swim in now, between, Comedy Central and now, the shit we do on CNN on Saturday nights. But, I think that for as long as what you do has a spirit of help or care or concern about Black folks, then there's something worthwhile to it. Even if everybody don't agree with you, even if everybody don't rock with what you're doing, if you knew what you're doing is net positive, keep doing it and be good to other people in the community. And that's something I've always tried to do.
Okay. So we're going to transition just a little bit. One of your first recurring television roles was on the show Sullivan and Son. How did that opportunity come about?
Man, that was a fun summer little bar sitcom show
Yeah.
we did for dang, who was it? Y'all get one.
I remember it was on TBS
It
because
was for TBS. It was for TBS. Yeah, and so that show ended up being a fun little acting class for me to learn a lot of stuff, man. And it was dope. Dan Laurie, the dad from the Wonder Years.
Yeah.
He played like one of the lead characters, but my man Steve Byrne, who was the star of the show, I played his best friend. And, Steve Byrne is a dude that believed in me and took chances on me long before so many other people in my life did. And I'm very, very grateful to him.
Yeah.
Very grateful to him a million times over for even trusting me with that. Because that show really did change the trajectory of my career.
Do you think it just gave you more confidence to be able to do acting?
Wait, say that one more time.
Do you think being on that show and around such talent, do you think that gave you more confidence to be able to do acting?
Yeah. I mean, I think that sitcom was, first off, I've been in LA 6 years. That was the first thing I booked. I've been in LA forever and hadn't booked nothing, man. And so being on that show, especially with a theater vet like Dan Lauria, and then feature a film and theater vet like Christine Ebersol, as well as Jody Long, like those three people were like, for me, they were like my acting linchpin. And bro, there was so many episodes where I only had 3 lines and the whole show is shot at a bar. So I'm at the bar, I'm just chilling, watching acting happen.
Yeah.
All night. So it was like a live acting class, and seeing the way that they could bring jokes together, and you'd see the joke on a paper and you hear it one way, and then you see it on the day and they flipped it to something totally different. So by the time I got to doing Fletch with John Hamm or popping off with DeWanda Wise and André Holland in a scene,
Yeah.
I kind of had enough confidence to know, oh, they want you to kind of change it a little bit. They want you to put your own sauce on it. So it was a blessing.
Now, let me ask you this. You talked about somebody believing in you, and you've talked in the past about representation and about opening doors for other creators. How important is it for you to be involved in projects that not only entertain, but move the culture forward?
I think it's very important to be doing stuff that helps other people. The one big lesson I've learned, though, over the last 7, 8 years is that if I'm not all the way in the door, I can't help nobody.
That's right.
And that's been the one biggest shift that I've had to make. I ain't Issa Rae with it yet. I ain't Kenya Barris with it yet. Not yet, hoping to be. But until then, there's only so much I can do because there's only so much leverage the networks and people are going to give you. I think one bigger thing that I'm starting to notice now is that, honestly, instead of trying to help people through the door, it's about convincing them why they need to just start building their own building instead.
Yeah.
Because I really think that's where the game is headed in the long run. The problem is that it's hard to have that level of confidence in yourself because the task is just so unimaginable.
Man, that's deep. That's deep, man. So we are here to talk about your new movie, and you mentioned André Holland, and I know for Bruce and myself, and then a lot of other Alabamians, and especially people from Birmingham and Bessemer, man, we root for everybody from the hometown. So no matter what you, him, Ricky, whoever is doing, we're always there to support. And so, man, we want to get into it, and we want to talk about the movie a little bit.
Yeah, can you tell us about the film and your character, Alan?
So my character, Alan, I'm the mayor. So Love Brooklyn, so you got André Holland, DeWanda Wise, and Nicole Bahari. Mm-hmm. And André Holland is playing a brother that's stuck between 2 different women. And the women are also deciding whether or not they want to be with his ass. Like, because you look at the poster and you just go, oh, it's a love triangle. This dude a player. And no, both women are aware of each other's existence in his world, which is something that a lot of dudes can take a message from and playing the game straight up with these women and stop lying. That's how y'all getting stabbed in the middle of the night.
That's right.
and getting your car keyed up because you're out here lying to folks. But, I play a married man who's his best friend and kind of like his voice of reason, even though my own character is debating on whether or not I want to cheat on my wife. So, the movie, a lot of ways, it's about Andre's character deciding whether or not to make the choice to be in love with one person. And my character represents how committed will you be to that choice once you have made it. And I think that's the balance that he and I kind of, serve for one another.
And
Now-
this, go ahead.
No, go.
And I mean, this is a different role for you because it's a dramatic role. Like, what drew you to the project and taking on a role like this?
Andre came to me, man, and also our executive producer is Steven Soderbergh, who's highly respected.
Yes.
Soderbergh, a lot of folks may or may not know, he handled all them Ocean's 11 joints, did a gang of joints with Brad Pitt and Matt Damon or whatever. So for both of them, these are two cats I highly respect to have belief that I could do this. And the role is still funny. It's just not goofy, silly, big, type energy. You know what I'm saying? So it's a different type of energy to make the comedic moments pop a little differently. I've always wanted to act a little bit more. I've always wanted to do a little bit more because, like, if you look at me on Sullivan and Son, I was literally a cell phone salesman who drinks all the time. So to go from that to being this mild-mannered married man who was a master Yoda about love, but I just don't take my own advice.
Wow.
That's a turn that, you normally don't get to play as a brother. Also, I love this movie, man, and I'm excited for everybody, especially in Birmingham, because it's going to be at Sidewalk Film Fest. For me, it ain't no police drama. It ain't no trauma going on. There ain't no slaves. Everybody's employed. Ain't no temporary layoffs. Ain't no secret credit rip-off, good time. None of that.
It's all good time.
It's good vibes about what do you do about love, man?
Yeah.
And who do you choose and why? Because I believe a lot of us juggling, and women be juggling too.
Yeah.
Let's not act like it just be men. We need to make a sequel where it's a woman choosing between. But we'll talk about that later.
Now, the film is set in Brooklyn, but the themes feel universal. You have love, identity, community. How do you hope the audience to connect with it, especially around the premiere?
The other aspect of the film is the city of Brooklyn as a character, and Brooklyn is changing into something. How can I put it? If we're going to be Birmingham with it, there are parts of Brooklyn that are turning into Avondale that used to be Bush Boulevard.
Okay.
Gotcha.
Does that analogy make sense?
Yes.
You get what I'm saying? So a lot of Brooklyn used to be Bush Boulevard, and I was starting to feel a little too many craft beers going on. You know what I'm saying? So where do you fit in that place? And who gonna come with you on that journey?
Yeah.
That's the thing you also have to decide, because everybody, as you continue to level up in life, man, everybody can't come with you. And so André Holland's character is deciding which of these women, if either, is coming with him. And then you got to pray that woman still chooses you.
Yeah.
And my character is going through the same thing and trying to decide on, whether or not I'm truly committed to the ring that's on my finger. And I think that's something that a lot of men deal with on a regular basis. And I think what we also tried to show in this film was how important male friendship is.
Yeah.
Yes, it is.
And especially how married men, and I hope women take something away from this, in that if you got a man that's got married friends, those married men generally are trying to give good advice to the unmarried friends, because a lot of people view the married men as the troublesome ones. You don't want your man hanging around the married men because they just out there cheating. But it's also about male friendship as well. I think it's a good thing.
Yeah. Now, did anything surprise you about the filmmaking process compared to your work in comedy and television?
No, not really. I'd say the biggest difference is that when you're shooting a comedy, like a proper sitcom, or like take anything I did with John Hamm or Kevin Hart back in the day, like that type of stuff, okay, you can get a couple of extra takes to be funny. But in a drama, the funny is just sprinkled in really fast. So you usually get it in the first pass or not. So
Yeah.
that part of it was probably the biggest difference, was that you don't get as many takes to be funny, because if the drama's big enough, the comedy's gonna pop on its own.
Yeah. Now
And thankfully, I didn't have to carry the drama. That's Andre and DeWanda and them. That's their job.
Right.
Now, you mentioned in this movie dealing with male friendship. Now, with all of us being from Birmingham, being from Alabama, a lot of people outside of this city and this state don't look for people like us to make it. So how does it feel to be not just from Alabama and Birmingham, but to be doing this film with someone like Andre?
Yeah.
It's very rare that I get to chop it up with anybody from the crib
Yeah.
that's done anything of significance beyond the horizon.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Beyond the city limits. I call it the horizon. I had a chance to chop it up with Andre a couple of years ago on a random project, and we ended up keeping in touch, and here we are. I think that it's important. I will always say the biggest mistake I made during my time in Birmingham, after I got out of FAMU and I was working at 95.7, I didn't surround myself with enough people who had scary dreams.
Yeah.
I had people who were content with where they were,
Yeah.
which is cool. But if you're content where you are, your level of effort is going to wane. You know what I'm saying? If you cool with doing, I don't go to the gym that much, but if your goal every day is 10 push-ups and you doing 10 push-ups and you and your boys get together and do 10 push-ups every day, all right, cool. But what you want is that one boy that's trying to do a max burnout every now and then, so y'all can get better.
Right.
So then you're doing 20 push-ups, then you're doing 50, then you're doing 100. And you're never going to get to that if you're with somebody that's content with 10.
Yeah.
Right.
And so it's not that 10 is bad. You go into the gym, you're in shape, but are you really maximizing yourself? Are you really pushing yourself? Are you really trying to get to another level? And once you get to that, there's nothing that can stop you. And then it's inevitable that you start meeting and running into everybody from the crib, man. I had an opportunity last year at the celebrity softball game when we were honoring Willie Mays at Rickwood Field.
Mm-hmm.
And I got a couple of men. It wasn't a long time, because I'm older than Jameis Winston, so I'm before his time. But my little brothers played against him,
Right.
and so to even sit and chop it up with somebody like Jameis for a quick minute and realize that he from I got to say Bessemer. I can't say round the corner. Bessemer got all the athletes. That's fine. Even though Birmingham, we still claim Bledsoe, Eric Bledsoe, one time for Parker High School.
That's right.
So I think that for anybody, especially in Alabama, man, especially in Birmingham, you ain't got to find the person that like what you like. Find somebody that's got a passion about something and get together and figure out a way to run together. Because you be to the point, put it like this. If you embarrassed to tell them what you into and what your dreams are, that ain't your crew.
It's the wrong group.
That's right.
Them ain't your people. And one by one, you're going to see that they're going to start falling off. So, I don't know. That's where it starts. You might have to parlay with people out of town. You got the internet, find a message board, get on Reddit. Whatever you into, it's a group for it on there.
Yeah.
Start there.
Yeah. And there's a lot of young creatives on the come up, like young comedians and then actors, and like the film scene has really grown here in Birmingham and I think Alabama overall. But then you see what's going on in Atlanta and LA and New York. Like, what would you say to those people who are like here in Alabama, like those young creatives, like that are looking for some advice, about just this industry and being here in Birmingham? Like specifically in the
Create,
South, like what advice would you give to them?
create, create, create. Shoot it now. Create it. Write it. Shoot it. Tubi's there. You can't wait for somebody to hand you the ticket to your dream. You got to build that dream.
That's right.
Yes, sir.
There's some folks there already doing dope things. Find them.
Yes.
Find them. And I know they're there because when I came home in 2018 to shoot my pilot for Comedy Central,
Yeah.
they was out the woodwork to work with me.
Yep.
I couldn't even hire everybody. We had a staff of 90, 70 were Alabama residents.
Wow.
We had a cast of 13, 9 had Alabama driver's license, including me.
Wow.
So it's folks that's right there in town that's talented and hungry.
Yes.
So build with them. Production's down in Atlanta. Go do the reading, man.
Oh yeah.
Marvel Studios just left Atlanta and moving most of their production
Overseas.
to Europe.
Yep.
Yeah.
Most of the shit that's shot in LA, they taking to Canada.
Yep.
They shoot American game shows in Scotland.
Yep.
Ain't no rules no more.
Yeah.
So you have opportunities to find your audience now, and it ain't got to be overly polished. It ain't got to be glitzy. It just got to be consistent, and it's got to be a story that connects. And the way you build a story that connects is be honest about your experiences and what you see and what you feel. I think Drewski's a really good example because if you look at what Drewski did to start, I can't speak on where he is now, but early Drewski was observational humor.
Yeah.
It was sketches rooted in here's what Drewski sees, and Drewski goes, hey, y'all, this is what I saw. And either you seen it too or you didn't.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But if you saw it, you're going to find it relatable, and you're going to share that bitch.
Yeah.
And who you shared it to, they going to share that shit to somebody else.
That's right.
And that's how it goes. You just start with an audience of one, which is you. Yeah. And then you just let it grow from there, man.
Yeah. Yeah. That's what's up. Man, let me ask you this. Let's get back to the movie a little bit. So without giving away too much, what is one scene or a moment in the film that really stuck with you personally?
Oh, I'll say one character that stuck with me. Because the scene I want to say gives it away a little bit.
Okay.
DeWanda Wise's character in the film has a daughter. And so that raises the stakes for Andre's character in deciding how much he wants to be involved in DeWanda's life, because you're basically agreeing to be in two women's lives now and not just one. And so I think that gravity of when Andre's character and DeWanda, this I can tell, they making out, right? They getting ready to get butt naked. And then the daughter like straight walk up in the room like, hey, my tummy hurt. Like, what? Get your ass out of here. And I think every man that's been on a sneak mission while the kid is asleep is your worst nightmare is seeing that child right there staring your ass in the face. So that one was probably a very memorable scene for me because I can relate, but also because that daughter, he also has to decide how much of an example of men he wants to be.
Right.
To that girl, like that part is very important too.
Now, the latest season for Have I Got News for you on CNN starts September 6th. What are some things we can expect this season?
Man, that's easy, man. That's just jokes, jokes, and more jokes. That's it. It's a British show. They crack on the news. We're going to do the same shit every Saturday night, 9:00, starting September 6th. I want everybody to watch. Oh, also, real quick before I go, I got to shout out my book too, man, The Man of Many Fathers.
Yes.
Yes.
And I'm gonna do a book talk at some point there in the city of Birmingham a little later this year. I'm still figuring out when, though. I haven't figured that part out just yet.
Hey, man, we'll love to be there.
Yeah, and let us know. We'll definitely share with our audience, man.
Now,
Yes,
one
sir. I
last question
appreciate that.
before you go.
Yep.
So when people go to the theaters and they watch Love Brooklyn, what is one feeling or thought that you hope stays with them?
I think that for the people who go see Love Brooklyn, I hope that they leave knowing that with the truth of what they've always suspected but never been willing to truly verbalize, and that's love is complicated.
Yes.
And it always will be. But we can make simple and quick, swift choices to make our lives better or worse.
Right.
That's right.
Man, well, Roy, we really appreciate you for joining us on this episode, man. Man, we love seeing your journey. And just, again, we're thankful for you for being on the show, man.
Yeah, man.
I appreciate it, man. Thank y'all for having me, man. I appreciate it.
Thank you, bro.
Out.
Yes,
Roy
sir.
Jr.,
Hi,
everyone.
Pips. Yes, sir.